Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Just as a reminder to everyone, the chair kindly requests that anyone who speaks today do identify themselves for the record. Additionally, if you're not a member of the board, please give feedback during public comment or wait to be called upon by me. Ms. Katie, will you please take roll call, confirm quorum, and verify post?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Katie Gilbertson, Governor's Office Workforce Innovation for the record. First off, for roll, we have Chair Anderson.
Here.
Thank you. We have Marshall Sneed.
Here.
Thank you. Senator Neal.
Here.
Thank you. Councilman Black. Okay. Irene Bustamante Adams.
Here.
Thank you. We have Ken Goodrich. Okay. Assemblywoman Brown May. Okay, Susan
Here.
Brager, thank you. We have Jesse Wadhams,
Here.
thank you. Christine Nelson,
Present.
thank you. We have Jerry Merritt. Present. Thank you. Roslyn Ellis,
Present.
thank you. Dr. Evelyn Thompson Hilbert,
Present.
thank you. We have Nancy Olson,
Present.
thank you. Okay, we have Ryan Woodward,
Present.
thank you. We have Lawrence Montrose. Okay, we have Gina Bon Jovi,
Here.
thank you. Robert Benner,
Here.
thank you. Edward Estefana,
Here.
thank you. We have George Galt,
Here.
thank you. We have Tommy White. Okay, Leslie Mujica. Here. Thank you. Derek Jimpy,
Present.
thank you. And Crystal Slaughter,
Present.
thank you. And then Chair, we had a few pre-notified absences for Dave Gray Belvis, Kevin Landry, Michael Bolognini, and Brittany Brown. And I'm just gonna add up the total real quick for quorum.
And while Katie's adding, one of our illustrious board members, Tommy White, has a scent which made named after him at Bagel Mania, in case anybody's interested.
Oh, good trivia.
All right, and then with that, Mr. Chair, Katie Gilbertson, for the record, I hereby affirm this August 21st, 2024 Governor's Workforce Development Board meeting has reached a quorum. And I further affirm that the agenda and notice for this meeting were properly posted pursuant to Nevada's open meeting law, NRS 241020.
Thank you very much, Katie. We'll move on to item number 4, public comments. Members of the public are invited to provide comments at this time. No action may be taken on any matters during public comments until the matter itself has been included on an agenda as an item for possible action. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have anybody on Zoom? Being none, anybody here in Las Vegas? Or in Carson City? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 5 for possible action. Is there any discussion before I call for a motion to approve the June 12th, 2024 full board meeting minutes?
Jerry Merritt, for the record, I move.
Thank you, Jerry.
Jesse Mojica, second.
Thank you, Leslie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on to item number 6 for discussion information only. Chair is very pleased to recognize the new director of Owen, Michelle Sneed, for an introduction and her remarks.
Thank you, Michelle Sneed, for the record. Thank you all for giving me a few minutes here to introduce myself. I'm certainly excited to meet everyone and excited to get to work. I did want to publicly first thank you, Chair Anderson and Vice Chair Evans, for stopping by my office, taking the time to actually speak to me for a while about the rich history of the board, kind of get me acclimated. It's very, very helpful. And thank you, Katie, for kind of spearheading that for me. And thanks to all of you board members for the work you've done and continue to do, from the state plan to the strategic plan, which I have read in full. And I'm excited about moving the plan forward. The work that you've done and continue to do in this space is invaluable to the citizens of Nevada. And so I would certainly be remiss not to commend you all for your great work and the service that you've done thus far. So a little bit about me. I was born in Akron, Ohio, and you are a basketball fan. That's
LeBron
always-
James.
LeBron James, yeah. There you go. That's our claim to fame. And that's actually where my career in public service actually began. Of course, graduated school, went to college in Indiana, then returned back to Ohio. But I've worked in public service for 20 plus years. And so during my tenure, you can imagine I've worked on many different projects and initiatives. I worked in many different capacities. First as a line level staff, and actually my first position was in Akron at the call center, unemployment call center. And we actually called it UIES call center, which stands for unemployment insurance and employment services. And the job was very rewarding for me. We actually talked to individuals over the phone. We would take their unemployment claim, but the rewarding side was the workforce piece. So after we took their claim, we'd actually log into our workforce system, which is equivalent to our employee system here. And we'd actually register them for work. We'd do some job matching in the system to see what was out there and available for them. And that was the rewarding piece, because it was not just about getting unemployment benefits, but it was ensuring that we were able to get them back to work right away. And so that was super rewarding for me and kind of catapulted really my career in public service. Just that feeling of having made a difference. And from there, I went on to progress, work in management, senior management positions. I've overseen unemployment divisions in both Ohio and workforce divisions, both in Ohio and Nevada. And most recently, my position, where most of you may know me from, is managing the Employee Business Hubs. So I was over the business services unit for Southern Nevada. And so that's where most of you may know me from. So I really have come full circle. I think that what is most unique about my career or life really is, unlike most that work in this space, I've had the opportunity to experience workforce from all sides, from a policy standpoint, implementing new policies and procedures for staff, and also from a first line worker standpoint, actually administering services in the system to participants. And there's also a period of time when I worked in the private sector, that was prior to this, where I was laid off and I used the services of the workforce system. So I know what it feels like to walk into an American Job Center and actually reach out for assistance and to be on the receiving end of that assistance, being exposed to the services that help get us back to work. I've been exposed to that. And so I know that feeling. I know what that feels like. And not only that, like, wait, there's more. Not only that, prior to that work, prior to my public service, I was also an entrepreneur, small business owner. And so I'm keenly aware of the resources that are available for small businesses and businesses to help them grow, because I actually had the opportunity to use those services. And so I always say that my life and my career kind of collided for the most part, and I've really come full circle. I'm excited about the opportunity to really work in this capacity and to kind of shape the workforce here in Nevada. I'm extremely passionate about workforce. So if you get to work with me, you'll know that that is my passion. It's personal for me. So I'm extremely passionate about that, and to get to work with you all in this space. I'm very excited about my current role and the opportunity to lead Owen and work with you all, actually, and get to know you all, and continue the necessary and great work of revitalizing our workforce system, and also working to collectively and cohesively with one mindset and one mission to help advance workforce development in the state. So I'll put a pin in it there, but happy and excited and ready to get to roll up my sleeves.
Wonderful, welcome.
Thank
Does anybody
you.
have any questions from our show before we move on?
I do have a very important question.
Yeah.
Bengals or Browns?
That is very important. Well, here's the funny part. So I'm from Akron, which is up near Cleveland, of course. So was a Browns person all my life, but I did live in Cincinnati for about 10 years. So of course, while I was there, I was kind of torn, right? Cheering for the Bengals. But my hometown is Akron, right up the street from Cleveland. So I have to go with the Browns.
Okay.
Dog pound for life.
Dog pound for life. I'm a Steelers fan.
Yeah. Steelers.
Oh, boy. Take it down a notch. Neither you got a you.
Good thing we're not serving alcohol at this party.
Can you tell it's football season?
So more importantly, three-way, four-way, or five-way. Cincinnati chili?
Ah, Cincinnati chili, Skyline chili, three-way.
Okay, just.
Yeah.
All right, enough of that. Moving on to agenda item number 7 for discussion and information only. The chair recognizes the State Apprenticeship Director within the Office of the Labor Commissioner, Tony Giddens, for remarks on what their office is working on. Welcome, Tony.
You,
Welcome.
Tony Giddens, State Apprenticeship Director, for the record. Thank you. I have been the Apprenticeship Director for just short of 2 years with the Office of the Labor Commissioner. I'm working on some great things here. So everything that we do falls under NRS 610.120. As far as my job, administering the provisions of that chapter, keeping a record of agreements and their dispositions, issuing certificates of completion, promoting apprenticeship programs through public awareness, going to high schools, working with the colleges and working with employers on the opportunities that are available for them, and ensuring the information and resources that are related to applicants for new apprenticeship programs are made available to the public, including information related to technical assistance and requirements for applicants of new apprenticeship programs. So we work really closely to make sure that these new programs are meeting all of Nevada's requirements for apprenticeship. Nevada has some pretty unique requirements. Unlike many other states in the country, in Nevada, apprenticeship programs, their sponsors are required for the complete cost of the training, the related training and instruction. An apprentice goes through an apprenticeship program, and the only thing they can be required to pay for are their tools, their books, or their uniforms. Everything else has to be covered by that sponsor. And so we also work really closely with them to help find the financing, connect them with organizations that can provide grants and ETPL, getting them registered, and so that we can get more apprentices through as not an alternative to college, but an alternative pathway to a career where they come out with specific training, good paying jobs, career level, and no debt. I have the privilege of working directly with our Nevada State Apprenticeship Council, some great representatives on that. And they fall under NRS 610.090. And they're responsible for standards of programs, making sure that they meet those standards, setting those standards up, reviewing them, and making sure that we have programs that are not only going to be beneficial to the apprentices going through them, but to the employers that are going to be receiving those apprentices to work for them. So currently, there's a lot going on. We are working, we do meet quarterly. Our next meeting is tomorrow. And we have 2 new programs going before the council tomorrow for approval. With the approval of those, we will have 71 total apprenticeship programs registered in the state of Nevada. And they range in every aspect from our traditional, those that set the standard and provide that standard for us with our construction industry programs. But we have healthcare, we have IT, we are working, we have a farming initiative up in the northern area that is training farmers to not only take over and helping them with SBA loans to take over some of the smaller farms that we might lose if not for this, but to also train farmers for our big agricultural so that we can continue to feed our Nevadans in the state. My proudest is when I first came on, I was tasked with, we need a teacher apprenticeship. At August of last year, we got our teacher apprenticeship program approved through the Nevada Apprenticeship Council with the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. It is the Teacher Pathways program. We are now, 1 year later, the second largest teacher apprenticeship program in the country.
Congratulations.
And we are setting standards. Wisconsin is putting their program forward here shortly, and they have utilized our program as their standard for their program. Not only does this program offer a pathway for those individuals traditionally that would have a degree are looking to career transition, get their certification and their licensure, their credentials and their licensure, but this program also offers a pathway for paraprofessionals who are working in the classrooms who want to become teachers and may not otherwise have that option. So they have the ability to go through this program, work in the schools, stay in their communities, become a fully licensed teacher with 0 debt to them. We are seeing huge retention with this. That program has a 90 95% graduation rate. So 95% of the apprentices that start graduate, and our retention rate is out of this world. And so, and this is a statewide program. So while UNLV is the sponsor and oversight, we have worked with school districts from the border of Idaho all the way down to Nike. So we're very excited about that. We are working with various organizations and employers to expand and develop new registered programs, including healthcare. We're working on an LVN, LPN program, advanced manufacturing with TMCC. And we're also partnering to develop programs in connection with Brightline Project and the Tech Hub project going to be happening here and then in Northern Nevada. So there's a lot of new opportunities. We're going to be working a lot with the lithium mining and battery recycling and creating the training programs that are going to be necessary to make sure that our Nevadans are prepared and ready to take on those challenges for those new projects. Currently, we have 6,672 active registered apprentices in this state. 69 current, we'll have 71 as of tomorrow, registered apprentice programs, 754 active employers that work with those programs because the sponsor is not always the employer. And then we have 94 separate occupations. So amongst those programs, there are 94 individual occupations, anywhere from cybersecurity to CNA, medical assistant, to all of our construction trades, the teacher apprentices, and more. And we're really, really excited about that. And we work diligently to ensure that these programs provide progressively increasing, reasonable, and profitable schedule of wages. That means we will never approve a program that will not pay a living wage. They have to pay a living wage, and there has to be a progressively increasing salary as they progress through that training and get the experience they need. So currently, our minimum non-construction wage is $14.50 an hour. That's the minimum they can start as an apprentice, entry level. And then our minimum construction wage is $16.67 an hour. And most of these programs end anywhere from 30 in the non-construction to anywhere between $50 and $80 construction. So we're creating sustainable and lifelong careers for our Nevadans and giving them the opportunity to get the skills and training they need with zero debt, which allows them then to spend more money to buy homes and to make sure that they're taken care of. And like I said before, all the apprentice programs are responsible for the complete cost, so zero out of pocket. Anybody have any questions?
I do, but I'll wait. Go ahead.
Oh, if you don't mind. Susan Brager for the record. So I especially love the certification programs, but what I would like to see is more value and respect in those. I think people with, and I've said this at UNLV in a meeting, and I don't mind, that have academia behind their name and all their letters doesn't always mean as much as a plumber coming to fix something or the electrician. And I have a strong affiliation with the CSNs because of that. I want to see more of those programs because we all make the world work. But sometimes people forget that the worker bee is really more important. My example sometimes is when I worked for the school district, the principal could be gone. Who do you think ran the school? This office staff. So nothing against principals, I love them. But I think that we have to look at some of these that people seem to think aren't as important when they really, really keep the custodian not being at a school one day is a disaster. So I just think we need to look at that. And I do think after a while, it should count for an associate's degree. And I'm working on that because I think that's really more, I have 34 years in real estate. And I just finished my last class, even for January of 26, because sometimes I don't have time. But we have to take 36 hours every 2 years, but it's not counted as anything even other than you have your license. And so I have an affinity for that, but we need to look at that more clearly.
Tony Gibbons, State Apprenticeship Director for the record. Many of our programs actually do. There are many of our programs that they can take 1 or 2 additional classes and that'll translate into an associate's degree. We have a couple programs that they actually have to take that class or 2 before they can be graduated from the apprenticeship program. So they leave with not only the apprenticeship certification, they also leave with an associate's degree.
And I'd like to, outside of this, just meet with you because that's just something that I love to work on while I have 4.5 more years.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's it.
Irene, you got your hand up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much, Tony, for your presentation. I'm excited of the direction that we're headed. I know that we're getting better. I do want to mention, Mr. Chair, on that teacher pipeline that Tony had mentioned. It was a collaborative effort. I'm grateful that UNLV stepped in to be the sponsor, but I also want to let you know that it was Workforce Connections, UNLV, Public Education Foundation, and CCSD working together to braid our funding. And so if UNLV could not cover something or PEF, then we would use our funds. And so together we got those paraprofessionals in a pilot project to cross the line and be able to attend their graduation and see the impact that we had collectively as a region was phenomenal. And so I know there's still some kinks to work out, but being able to turn those paraprofessionals into licensed teacher is part of the solution of what we're doing as a region to solve our teacher shortage. So I just wanted to let you know that it was other titles pulling together to make it happen. And then I know that we got invited by Nevada Works, our local workforce board in Northern Nevada, for an apprenticeship grant that they just received. And our focus is going to be on healthcare for those. And so just excited about the collaborative effort that you under your leadership and Ken and others have set the tone for us to be able to call one another and figure out how we could do it better together. So just thank you, Tony, and I'm excited for our state and especially for Southern Nevada.
Good. Thanks, Irene.
Okay, yeah, for the record, Vice Chair Ken Evans, the question I want, first of all, great presentation, and I echo what Ms. Bunzmonte Adams said about the value of cooperation and collaboration. A seed I wanted to plant, because it's an issue that we're dealing with, especially one of our subcommittees, is there any consideration for a child care apprenticeship? And if you could expand on that, because I think what we're already seeing is there's some things we need to do from the employment side as well as from the client side.
Tony Giddens, State Apprenticeship Director, for the record. Yes, we are actually in the process. We are actually working with the Department of Labor has apprenticeship office as intermediaries that they hire to work in the different realms. And we rely on them to help us make sure we're setting standards, to help us make sure that we're helping the individuals who are trying to start this program, make sure they're meeting all their needs, which means connecting them with resources. And so we're in the process right now of working with a program called the Children's Cabinet. They're going to be starting up in the Northern Nevada area, but they're going to be moving down to Southern Nevada, and that'll be just the beginning. That'll be the first. It takes a village because, as we know, sometimes the ability to bring in great childcare often comes at the cost of the individuals working that aren't often paid the wages that are necessary to maintain a living wage. So we've been working through those struggles to get them to a point where they can be, and the support to that so that we can provide that training, get the needed resources we need for childcare here, but also make sure that those individuals that are working that are making a living wage while they're doing it.
Okay. With respect and deference to the subcommittee chair, would it be possible for you to come give an update or someone to give a briefing on the child care apprenticeship effort to our subcommittee?
Yes, absolutely.
But I want to give deference. to
No,
the
I
chair.
think that would be fantastic.
Yes, we are.
And who's,
So my question is more tied to your organization, as far as if it's apprenticeship type people that are coming to you, they're not coming to you. It's more businesses that you're dealing with, I assume. And then the apprenticeships are going through the business people. How are people finding out about you? In other words, like, walk me through the pathway.
We do a lot of outreach. For those of you that are aware, every year the Department of Labor sponsors a National Apprenticeship Week. That's in November. And so this year we had the ability to have some funding, and we're going to do a really large event, North and South. We're in the process of planning that. That's to really promote apprenticeship, to establish apprenticeship. We're going to invite employers from the areas that aren't tied to apprenticeship, but we also work with those DOL intermediaries. And so those DOL intermediaries are kind of our go-between, because often they'll get the organizations that are looking to start these programs, be able to feed them to us and us to connect the local resources necessary, the employers. It may be someone they are a training provider, they want to start this program, but we need to connect them with the employers that are going to hire those apprentices. So that is how we work to make sure that we're building that, growing that. And then we're going out, we work with the building trades unions on the construction side to get the word out and to make sure that individuals are aware what's available to them. We're in the high schools, we're going to the middle schools, and we're working with Workforce Connections and some of their sponsors they put this lovely color book together. And so we're working to make all those connections so that the individuals, the children, their parents understand. This is not saying they shouldn't go to college. This is just saying this might be an alternative pathway to a viable career for them, where they can get both the education and the career and the pay with zero debt.
Ken Goodrich for the record, great presentation and very impressive numbers, by the way. Now, I have been in the trades business for over 40 years in Nevada in both Las Vegas and Reno. Air conditioning and plumbing, by the way. And
Thanks for today.
and what's most interesting about my term on the board here is I've heard about all these programs, yet as an employer for over 40 years and right here in Las Vegas, I really have never heard of them, right? And I haven't heard of this program. And you may have answered this question with the other questions. So how are you reaching out to the individual employers like myself? We figured out about 20 years ago that our pool of our labor force was shrinking. Young people didn't want to get into the trades. And so we really have had a large recruiting effort, training effort, and mentorship and apprentice programs for over 20 years in-house. Yet I hadn't been aware that there's help. So one, how do we get out to the individual employers like myself? And two, I'm not clear on what your agency actually provides. Is it to the employer? Are you giving them a system to train by, assistance with the payroll? What benefits come with it?
So our outreach, we work a lot, and that's where the partnership that was spoken to comes with. We work a lot with Workforce Connections and Nevada Works and Dieter to get outreach to the employers that are seeking needs they're having. If they're struggling with finding trained individuals, they're often referred to our office so that we can work with them, partner with the intermediaries to help them build the programs or connect them with the programs that already exist that can be a benefit to them in finding those trained and skilled workers that they're in need of.
So my program, I can come to you and say, I already have a program.
And we
Please
work
send me any people that want to be in HVAC or plumbing my way.
correct. So we get you with one of the training programs that already exist.
Oh, okay.
And have you work that with them. So yes. So we do that all the time. I have, especially with the clean energy, that's one of the areas where we're seeing all these companies coming in with the clean energy initiatives here. Not always are they able to find. So we're connecting them with the existing programs because they don't necessarily want to start their own program. They just want to be able to reap the benefits of programs like this. And they're able to sign agreements with them and work with them to get the trained individuals.
Okay. Great job.
Stole my thunder. So it's exactly the question I was going to ask you. Are you aware?
No.
And then as far as our resources and what we provide, so we're that technical assistance to the groups that want to start a program. We are the one to walk them through the process, what it takes. Yes, if I'm actually working right now to help the National Sheet Metal Union because of the Brightline project and the trains and the need for the locomotive repair. There is not an existing program anywhere in the country. And so we're in the process of helping them build their workflow and their process so that we can get this program started and up and running so that when that train is running, we know that we have skilled workers that can then do the necessary repairs and keep those trains moving.
Evelyn, you had a question?
It was but I'll take the opportunity anyway. Evelyn Thompson Hilbert for the record. My question was similar to the previous one on the employer side, but as you guys all know, I always speak up about those we serve. I know that Workforce Connection is doing a lot of work with disconnected youth. So my question, and actually kudos to you, Tony, and I agree with Susan Breger that it's fabulous work, and I think it's long overdue. So first, I want to start with that. My question is more A problem I know, I worked at CSN for a long time in workforce development and a lot of other areas. And one of the biggest issues I've seen challenged a lot has been to get individuals in seats. And being on the underserved and barriers subcommittee for Governor's Workforce Development Board, my question is, and it may be misplaced because I don't know if you in your group are specific, your agency is specifically responsible for outreach, but one of the most difficult demographics to reach have been who we're addressing on the barriers committee, and that's African American males, very high unemployment in the South, and Latino and Native American males in the North, ages 16 to 24. So we deal with that. And then again, single mothers, and that's outside of just childcare. So this is the data coming directly from DEETR. So my question are there any efforts, excuse me, underway to make sure somehow, or maybe we need to discuss in more specifically in the barriers committee, how to reach these very difficult target populations? I know that was a lot. I apologize.
Again, State Apprenticeship Director for the record, yes. So that is actually part of our offices. We are regulatory, and part of our duty and my duty is the oversight of these programs to make sure that they are reaching out and doing their due diligence in making sure that their application process, their interview process there, and those that are starting the program are meeting the demographics and they're doing the outreach they need to do. So we do biannual reviews with all of the programs to make sure that they're doing everything they need to. They need to provide us with who their outreach is to when they're having an application process, detailed list. They have to provide us with, and of course we already have this, but we have the demographics on what their demographics of their apprenticeship population looks like. We look at what their demographics of their application pool look like, an interview pool that made it out, and who made it onto the wait list. So we do monitor that, and we are making strides. We're working with the Office of Apprenticeship right now on some tools that we can get out to the different programs on how to help them better with that. That's also something we're working at with Workforce Connections on reaching that population, those that aren't in school, but they're not working either, and how to reach them and how to show them what's available to them and meet their needs. So yes, it's happening. We're working to make it better.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, my quick follow-up is Vice Chair Evans for the record. My quick follow-up is, and it's a kudo to Mr. Goodrich and Ghetto Mechanical or Ghetto Plumbing and what they've done. And I wanted to follow up on it very quickly. I had the opportunity to do a site visit, and two things. Number one, I've asked him and his team to provide the board here with the presentation, because essentially what they did as a private employer is they created their own program. I went to the graduation for the first cohort, and my understanding is they have a second cohort that's underway right now. Here's the reason why I'm bringing it up. Hypothetically, on his behalf and other employers' behalf, if they take the initiative to use their own resources to create a program, what I'm hoping is we can figure out how to leverage the system to appropriately provide resources such that if private employers are willing to take that step, maybe we show them how to appropriately maneuver through the system to subsidize that effort. I'll stop there because I don't want to get ahead of my skis, but I did want to bring that up.
And can I add to that? Can we get the record? For instance, we have a 20,000 square foot technician, air conditioning technician, and plumbing facility that we built that we would gladly share and to get some more utilization out of it, for instance. And sorry about this watch. I just got it and I don't know how to turn it off.
As long as it's not sounding any health issues.
Yeah. And pardon me, real quickly, Vice Chair Evans, for the record, just a little bit more follow-up. And also what I really appreciated was the diversity of the cohorts in terms of making sure male, female, as well as persons of color within the cohort. So that's the reason why I'm making a big deal about it.
Tony Gittens, State Apprenticeship Director for the record, to respond to that. That is absolutely, and that is why we definitely utilize our DOL intermediaries, because they can help, and we've seen this before, where we've had a group of employers who have already had something started. They've already have an established program. We just need to take it to the next level, and we need to be able to find that continuation of funding and assistance for them so that it makes it worthwhile for them. And we work with the intermediaries that can help them do that. Oftentimes, an intermediary will start as the sponsor, and then it will get transferred back to the group when they're ready, but they can help them with the funding piece. They can help them get it all established. And that's part of what our office does too, is refer back to those funding opportunities that are available for these programs. Every week I receive notification of some funding opportunity that I am forwarding on to the appropriate program so that they know what's available, how to apply for it. We work with Nevada Grant Labs that can help them at low to no cost, get those grants written and get that funding to keep them going. We as an office also apply for grants every year and use those grants. This year, our State Apprenticeship Expansion Formula grant that we received is going to help fund the Culinary Academy of Las Vegas to grow their program. That is an amazing program reaching our underserved populations. And because of our tie with them when they were doing their negotiations, they were able to negotiate with the MGM resorts that anybody that graduates from their program does not start at the minimum wage that most hired into MGM. They will start at a higher wage because they have completed the program.
So, George.
George Galt, for the record. I live in Mesquite. We have a branch of College of Southern Nevada. We've worked with the college and they've recently received a grant to purchase HVAC training equipment. We can't find the kids. So I'd like to visit with you after and talk about some recruitment.
And I've been working with the Mesquite Workforce Development Board to work through some plans.
Nancy, my apologies. I didn't see your hand before. Feel free to jump in.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very much. Nancy Olson for the record. I just wanted to mention that I recently met with Tony to discuss how adult education can do more within the world of apprenticeship, and discussing developing more in the way of aligned pre-apprenticeship programs. So we're hoping that going forward, there's a little bit more to celebrate there. But I did get word recently that one of our adult education programs received the grant for the Youth Build program, which fits in with the apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, apprenticeship level program. So we're very excited about that. Thank you.
You, Anderson, for the record, and if this is too long for a meeting discussion, maybe I can follow up with you, but I'm interested to find out how that uncredentialed school personnel individual who now wants to become a teacher can go through an apprenticeship as compared to an individual who goes through college curriculum and gets their certification. What is the time difference? What is the quality outcome difference? I mean, does this person actually get to bypass 4 years of college as compared? Okay, so help me, if you can, briefly give me the Reader's Digest version.
Tony Gittens, State Apprenticeship Director for the record. So no, our paraprofessional program is they will graduate with a degree in education. They will have their credentials and they will actually, this program is, they graduate and get their licensure before they've completed their apprenticeship program, which means they spend an additional amount of time in the classroom still as a licensed teacher, but still under the apprenticeship so that they have the guidance and the mentoring so that we have the longevity. So we're not just dumping like the traditional, we're dumping somebody who spent maybe 6 months in a classroom shadowing a teacher. These individuals have been working in the classroom the last year of their program, the last year and a half of their program. They are actually the full-fledged teacher in the classroom. They get a degree. The way that this works is that it gives them the ability to, instead of having to bypass work because they have to be in class all day, their instruction is online. They have the ability to take all of the related coursework online while they're in the classroom, getting the real world experience while they're doing it. So instead of doing one and then the other, we're doing it all at the same time, which is better integrating what they're learning into their classroom.
Thank you. Any other questions for Tony? Really appreciate your time and the information. All right, moving on to agenda item number 8, the discussion of information only. The chair recognizes Vice Chair Evans to discuss the GWB strategic plan implementation and execution. At the last full board meeting, you'll remember in June, the governor's office presented a letter of support for the strategic plan, affirming that this board's plan is the vehicle for executing the governor's vision for workforce development. Governor's seal of approval is solidified the completion of the plan and allowed us to move forward in implementation and execution. Ms. Gilbertson presented the goals, strategies, action items, timeframes, measurements, and execution teams to the executive committee in July. She'll provide the same brief overview for the full board today, and then we will move into discussion with the execution teams to assign personnel for each action item in the December 24 and February 25 timeframes. Please remember that this is a strategic plan is not intended to put another large time commitment on everybody's plate. Rather, it will be a truly collaborative initiative that will require traditional and non-traditional workforce partners to collaborate and innovate to achieve the strategic plan's 3 goals of uplifting underserved Nevadans, engaging Nevada's businesses with the public workforce system, and aligning the system among education, economic, and workforce development partners. Any non-governor's workforce development members who are listed on the execution teams are welcome to participate in the discussion after Ms. Gilbertson presents.
Katie Gilbertson for the record. Thank you guys for being here today. Just a brief overview of what was in the Governor's Workforce Development Board's first ever strategic plan. And we're going to kick off the discussion today on how we actually get to the implementation and execution of that plan. So this will just be a brief overview of that so we can get more to the discussion. Is that better?
Oh, it's fine.
Okay. All right. So this is just a little bit of overview on what the Governor's Workforce Development Board does, as well as how we got to the strategic plan. You know, just as an update, we got through the Rio Estate Plan all of last year with the tremendous help of Nancy Olson and Ariana Florence and the rest of the work group that contributed to that. From that, we comprised some of the brightest board members we have for the strategic plan task force. And I have to thank, Vice Chair Evans for leading it. Former Director Scott Hammond, we have Ken Goodrich here, and we have Edward Estepona and Ryan Woodward and then Nancy Olson. So that's how we kind of got to this point. So just want to thank you guys again for contributing your time to get to the strategic plan, to get this through the finish line, get developed and through the finish line. So before this, we didn't really even have a charge or a mission for the Workforce Board in a concrete way. So this kind of set that up, right? So our charge is to get perspectives from everybody that's here, industry, labor, and government, to craft policy recommendations for policymakers and make sure that we're deploying those with policymakers as well as everybody in the workforce ecosystem. And our mission is what we're going to touch on. The pillars for the strategic plan is helping underserved individuals, reduce workforce and learning barriers and find meaningful employment, engage Nevada's businesses, as we heard today, hopefully promote the services that are available to businesses. And then third is align all the partners together, make sure everybody knows that, oh, this person does this and this person does that. And hopefully, get rid of some of the mystery as to what the workforce system is and does. So that was our 3 pillars for our strategic plan. We, as you guys saw the Rio Estate Plan, it was 250 pages. Really wanted to collapse that down and get, pretty concise as to what we want to do with this board. So the strategic plan you have in front of you is 10 pages or 15, I think. So a lot better. For population, this is our first goal. This is just kind of how I conceptually kind of laid it out. I don't expect you to read it, but so the goal is to get rid of those workforce and learning barriers for underserved people, for the underserved Nevadans. So how we're going to do that is first through awareness of the public workforce system and the resources available to everybody at no cost. The second is to get more access to those individuals, making sure that they know where to go when they decide that they want to pursue that avenue to get help. And then third is the supply of those actually providing the services and making sure that we have a great, a workforce to help the workforce, right? So in the strategic plan, the actual Word document kind of replicates this format a little bit, but as I mentioned before, it's awareness, it's access, and it's supply. And so what we have, as you can see in each of these rectangles, is a specific action item, such as like action item 1A, we're creating a shared calendar of events. So everybody, we can see Title I's having a hiring fair on this date, and then, Tony could direct her apprenticeship people to that and stuff like that. So that's an action item. It has a time frame of February 2025, and we'll go over the timeframes later in the presentation. Everything is a measurement, so hopefully we can see what is the impact of executing that action item. But this board has really been all about impact and measurement, and I think that was a really clear message, what we got through the strategic plan task force, through our feedback, through our 75 partners we sent it to is, you can make a plan, but what does it do? Right? So what's the point of all of this? So the measurement was really important, as well as execution teams, which we're gonna go over more today, and making sure we have the right people to talk to, the right people to work together in these smaller work groups to get these things done. So I'm not gonna read the whole thing to you, but that's just kind of the layout for each. The second goal is engagement with businesses. So just making sure that they are aware and engaged with the public workforce system. The two strategies we have for that are awareness and effectiveness. So the way we're going to do that again is to do, this is actually committee member Brager's suggestion, is to launch a Did You Know campaign with chambers, to show, did you know that the public workforce system provides registered apprenticeship training and stuff like that. So working again with our partners to see, when you promote these systems and stuff to businesses, how do we grow our impact? Is that more website traffic? Is that more, referrals? What does that measurement look like? So, and then the second strategy to that is making sure that the training that we have is aligned with the employer needs. And that's going to get more to the alignment goal as well. So that's our third one. And making sure that the workforce system's working for, the clients and the businesses. So we're going to align the workforce system with education, economic development, and workforce development. The three strategies to do that are, again, awareness. Second is effectiveness, and then the third is performance. So just a couple high points here on the action items are creating an inventory of all workforce partners to say, this is just everybody in the realm. Second, go into like an asset map and say, this is what so-and-so does, this is what so-and-so does. Kind of do a gap analysis to say what's missing in, the players that we have, what does somebody not do that we could, go into design curriculum or programmers or something like that. And then the third is to hopefully at the end of all this, create a Governor's Workforce Development Board dashboard to show the metrics that we've had and the success that hopefully this strategic plan brings. So that's kind of the cap it all off of the strategic plan. Here's our time frame for executing these action items. So we have December, so we have the end of this year. February is the significance of that is it's the start of the legislature. May is like the, during the legislature towards the end. September is kind of the post legislature, what's kind of happened. And then June is just 2 years from when the plan was approved this past June. So, it's ambitious to kind of put a timeline to all these things. They're not really easy. It's not easy to make change with all these people, all these players involved, but it kind of signifies the dedication to getting something done, so to say. So that's the timeline that we've ran with. And then we also made another thing just to keep us accountable as performance scorecard. This will be available on Owen's website. Everything I just showed you, it's just in a table format, and it's got the great color indicators, to show what point in the process we're at. A lot of reds right now, but that won't be for long. So that's our performance scorecard. And then Ken, you talked through this one last time, the rules of engagement.
Yeah, for the record, Vice Chair Evans, the reason why we came up with rules of engagement is we wanted people to know this isn't intended to be punitive. It's intended to create an environment and encourage everyone, all internal and external stakeholders to cooperate and collaborate. So I won't read through all the rules of engagement, but two key things. One part is to pull together internal and external stakeholders into these execution teams with the hope that the various board members via the subcommittees or as individuals will kind of become the champions for the various execution teams to make sure that we keep making progress and we stay on point with that. And then the second thing I'll point out once again with the rules of engagement is that the way we carry ourselves or ask questions, again, is with the collaborative, cooperative spirit as board members. And for example, we had a meeting, an offline meeting. We want everyone to realize that part of the reason why we're doing what we're doing is if there's a challenge or an issue in keeping with the timeline, let's bring it up now with the thought that we can go to the legislature and say, here's a potential solution. It's going to require some resources. This is where we need your help to either identify or provide those resources. So again, what I would in summary suggest to you is that what we look to do here today is to get some initial thoughts from each of you as far as your interest in participating on execution teams, as well as helping to make sure that we create and keep a collaborative environment. So, the other thing I want to do right now is just very quickly, Mr. Chair, I need to take a physical leave to head to the airport. I'll be following online, and then I'll try to get back here before we conclude the meeting.
Good luck at that.
Yeah.
I know. Actually, point of privilege, if I could, very quickly, what I also wanted to say to this group, I think several of you know, but personally, what I want to say to all of you is I appreciate your support, your friendship, and beyond that, your prayers. Just wanted to publicly share with everyone. A couple of weeks ago, I went and got a follow-up. I've been through treatment, and essentially I'm cancer-free. So once again, just want to say thank you. And with that, I'll try to get back.
Don't violate those natural resource laws, okay? All right. All right.
You have a hand from Assemblywoman.
Assemblywoman Brown May, you have a comment or question?
I do. I just have a question. Do we have a workforce development day currently scheduled in the legislature as a day of focus?
I am not aware that we
No.
do. But
No.
we can certainly remedy that with your assistance.
I'm happy to help. I think we probably should work on it to get a day on the calendar before we don't have any days available.
Excellent. Thank you for that point. Senator Neal.
Can't hear you. You're muted.
Thanks for that. It's been an interesting day. So on action item 4B, where basically it was listed if folks are running classes that are not in alignment, who is exactly responsible for the course correction?
Oh, sorry. You're speaking about that one.
Yeah, so it was on 4B. It's the second part, confirm with training providers that their courses teach the in-demand skills. So if you find out that they're not, who's responsible for the course correction? To say, okay, you're not doing X, you're not doing Y, we need you to. Is it that executive team or that's assigned, or the whole board?
It's on the top. It's the other slide. One with the squares.
It's under strategy too.
And it's
That's right, Katie, right there. You got it.
right there.
It was on.
It's the same information, so
sorry.
it's what it's either.
That's an excellent question, Senator. We will probably take it, once it's been elevated that there's non-alignment, we would then identify the supervisory entity to get that corrected. But at present, we don't know.
Maybe
Okay.
I can add a little bit, Ryan
By
Moore
yourself?
for the record. If a training provider is on the ETPL list for the state, there is approved curriculum that's regulated by this post-secondary education committee. And so as long as they're teaching what's been approved, it should have already had employer-approved curriculum put in place. And so if the employers are saying that change, then they need to change it. That's one thing. But I would expect if it's an approved training provider, it should be on the post-secondary commission to regulate that.
Excellent point.
Okay. Can I have a follow-up question, please, Chair?
Certainly. Certainly.
So, I, here's the second question, because I still have questions on the first one, but the second one, I'll just leave that alone, is for the asset maps. Are the existing workforce agencies going to participate in giving dollars for this marketing campaign that you guys are engaging in, being that they also are supposed to be doing marketing? I saw in there that there's supposed to be, you know, cross, I guess, lifting up organizations, but for the marketing plan, it would make sense to me that all organizations put in towards this digital campaign of helping the community identify where they are, which they should already be doing, but was that discussed? I wasn't at the June 12th meeting. I was there for maybe 30 minutes and then I got off.
But I think the intent is to start coordinating the messaging. So regardless of where it comes from, there's a common theme being driven. And I think we heard in the discussion between Ken Goodrich and Tony, the work we're trying to do is begin to make the connection in the community. We have a major employer here who didn't know the good work that's being done at the state level, and so resorted to their own devices to produce what they needed done, and yet they had a willing partner that they weren't aware of. And so we're hoping that through breaking down these silos and these information gaps, any advocacy in the community will have that common theme. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. We had somebody else. Nancy, did you have your hand up?
I did a while back, Nancy Olson for the record. I just wanted to piggyback on what someone said about the Workforce Development Day, to let everyone know that September 16th to the 20th will be the National Adult Education and Family Literacy Week. And I have gotten approval for a governor's proclamation to also make it Nevada Adult Education and Family Literacy Week. So just wanted to piggyback on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Any other questions or comments on this subject? Seeing none. Oh, Edward.
I think one of the challenge you're gonna have with this, because we have so many moving parts, and I think Senator Neal was kind of referring a little bit to this. There's so many moving parts. When I say moving parts, there's so many different organizations across the state that's doing this. And every organization's kind of doing what they have to do, what they're charged to do, and you know, some of them by law, this is why they were established to do that. It almost makes sense to me that there needs to be more of a central, I'm gonna call this the cheat sheet for workforce, cheat sheet website for workforce, where at the end of the day, somebody enters in, they come into a portal. Do I need this? Do I need that? And it takes them specifically to the service that they need directly versus going through 1,500 pages of a website and not being able to find it. Because you have to understand that most people who are on the underserved part, their patience is this small for that kind of stuff.
Underserved for no patience.
Yeah, so really getting them to as fast as we can to who's going to help them, because there's going to be different people that's going to help them, whether it's apprenticeship or whether it's training for a job, for a specific job. There's got to be, at the end of the day, you know, a central place that manages this call. You know, I mean, God, I'm going to date myself here. But when I was younger, we had these Cliff Notes. So we wouldn't read the whole damn novel. We'd read the Cliff Notes to take the test, right?
I'm appalled.
Yeah. So anyway, this is the Cliff Notes to workforce is what we need. And I think that's it's a component that's a centralized place to send people to, because whatever this messaging is, and again, is it if every organization, they're charged with some sort of outreach on their own anyway that they have to do for their own organization. But then on top of it, there's got to be outreach that pushes globally to workforce everything. that kind of stitches everybody else's message together. I'm seeing this from an awareness standpoint. I'm in marketing, so if you guys need help on this kind of stuff, let me know.
Well, stay tuned. We think we might be on the precipice of the solution. Right, Ryan? Anne, did you have
Yes.
a comment?
Hi, yes, thank you.
Oh.
Ann Silver, CEO of the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce. I just have a quick question. When the schematic indicates providers, are those only providers that are receiving WIOA funding or any organization that is doing workforce development?
I think the intent was to be any.
Any, okay, thank you.
That was the intent. Thank you.
Right.
Derek,
Sure.
just for the record, how are we thinking about? There are a number of moving pieces, but how are we thinking more about governance around the execution? Right, for example, we look at the execution team for engagement, action item 2B, that's Owen Department of Taxation. Right, is there an intent to maybe put together a center of excellence from various organizations to kind of govern or track the metrics around these? I don't know if we had any conversation.
Well, as Katie mentioned, we're hoping to develop a dashboard, and that would be brought before the executive committee to see what progress or lack of progress is occurring, and then proceed to bring it to this bill, whatever remediation.
Got it.
Any other questions? So it's a big elephant to chew, but it's one bite at a time. We will be following up with an email to reach out to the entire board to offer you the opportunities of the areas you wish to engage in as part of the execution teams. And then if we don't hear from you, you'll be getting a lot
You'll
of-
be voluntold.
You know the drill. You know, don't miss a meeting. Don't miss a meeting.
Exactly.
Better sign it.
Don't miss your meeting.
That's right. Don't miss your meeting. All right. Let's move on to agenda item number 9 for discussion and information only. The chair recognizes the Barriers and Underserved Population Subcommittee Chair and Vice Chair Ken Evans, who's violated speed limits, and Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner and Child Care Subcommittee Chair Susan Brager to present updates from the subcommittees. And we'll start with the Barriers and Underserved Population Subcommittee. Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to briefly recap our efforts at our most recent meeting. We continue our effort to identify proven practices and programs that can be adapted and scaled to respond to Nevada's need. And as a result, had 2 substantive presentations at our last meeting, one from the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, where they leveraged a number of strategies to strategically increase capacity building around providing the delivery of employment services as well as flexibility. 2 things that came out of that discussion for us or opportunities were, one, to look at how we as a committee and encourage the board to consider how we might strategically partner organizations who have credibility, particularly among some of our overrepresented populations in unemployment, as well as alternative labor pools with organizations that have operational capacity to further bring more folks into the workforce. And then beyond that, to look at the continuing need to find flexibility around our employment programming and services, particularly attending to some of the eligibility constraints that have been a barrier or challenge. And so excited to look at that, particularly because it aligns with the strategic plan, whether it's the discussion around how we align across systems and build capacity around training, or look at other ways to bring folks into the workforce. Also, we received a great presentation on WIN, which is a state program where we believe there's an opportunity to double down on the employer training partnerships that are happening. And so not only were we encouraged to see that a number of the programs that had benefited from WIN in GOED's office had already not only graduated cohorts, but had some in the workforce, we began asking ourselves, how might it be an opportunity not only to bring or target alternative labor pools to get them into the workforce, but also how we might leverage the employer cadres that they're leveraging to do the training to get more folks into real viable career pathways. Finally, we also looked at the new strategic plan that was rolled out today and was ecstatic to see the prioritization of addressing training barriers for individuals, but also the alignment across our economic development, workforce development, and education systems. Thank you, Chair Hugh Anderson.
Thank you, Doctor. This is Hugh Anderson for the record. I do have a question. Has your committee identified any low-hanging fruit where we can get some easy wins to start moving the needle on some of those initiatives?
We have identified some opportunities and began meeting with organizations that are already doing work in the community, including in Northern Nevada, where there's been an effort, and I believe we may have shared previously, or in our indigenous community. So there are some things that can be scaled that are already happening. And so the short answer is yes, if you're wondering if we're still just pontificating about the work.
Not at all. Not at all. Thank you very much. Any questions for Dr. Gardner? All right, Susan.
Thank you, Susan Brager for the record. First, I want to say our committee is amazing. They come to all the meetings, whether in person or on Zoom. And of course, we have the Great North participation. I wish we could get rid of North and South. I'm not certain for all these years how we do that, but they are up north. I should like to say state. I think I'll just start saying state partners would be better. We had an amazing presentation by Wonder School, and they have been very active within our community, more than I had ever heard. So about 3,500 childcare programs. You all have this, so I'm not going to read anyone. I think that's the worst thing in the world. But anyway, so we feel like we've taken baby steps. We're still, each meeting, we get more information. Some of the key takeaways are, we don't always need a freestanding daycare business, but we need, you want to date yourself. We had block homes when many years ago, but having someone, let's say they can't afford to go to work because of the daycare barriers, they could be the daycare. But what we're looking for, and we're working with Commissioner Kirkpatrick on this and the other municipalities, that at home you have a regular toilet, or maybe you have a stepping stool or something. We're looking that we can have all the legal ramifications of safety and health, but that we could mitigate some of those that aren't necessary. So that, let's say, an apartment building, they're not allowed to do that right now. Some HOAs want to prohibit that type of daycare at a home. So we want to work with some of the state agencies so we could streamline who can and who can't. If this mom, and it's more women than men, so I'll say it this way, can't go to work, maybe she can watch 4 to 6 children, and those people can go to work. So we're looking at not just creating a freestanding daycare factor, but those within our neighborhoods so that people can do it. The fantasy is still to have a large building where 5 elementary schools surround it, in a 5-mile area. People can, if they work on this side of town, they can use this facility so they're near their child. If they work, let's say in Henderson, that there'd be a facility that their child could hopefully work with CCSD, that they could go to that school or that daycare, so that we can make it viable and not as cost effective as possible. One other item that stuck out a lot to me, this amazing mother felt like she needed to create something for her child, and it's called Super Genius Kids. They did receive $6 million grant for expansion. They have 2 additional buildings. She started with a 4-to-1 ratio, just 4 children. She needed something for her child, became very inventive, and showed that this can happen. I'm going to visit. I told her I'm not sure about the genius part, but I'm going to visit her facility, and maybe we can, emulate. We have a few of us are looking with brokers that do commercial. I do mainly residential, but know the other brokers. Is there a building that's gone defunct? We've asked Maryland to check with business license, and I'm doing it with the other municipalities. Did a daycare go out of business? And therefore we would have the implementation of a building without, we don't want to create the wheel, but we feel like those steps with all the help of those that come to every meeting, it's really fantastic. And what we ask for, what do you want to see in the next meeting? What will make us get further? So Wonder always want to forget their name. Wonder School is coming back to our next meeting because they feel like they can really present us with more opportunities. And that would be pretty fantastic because we did ask another company that came. One daycare was having a problem, but they can walk with them and provide some funding, keep them on their feet. We don't want people to fail. So overall, I feel like our subcommittee, I feel honored to be able to be working with those that are there and give us good values. Carissa from other part of our state has been really useful and helpful. And other people that, you know, the children's cabinet, almost forgot what they're called. So lots of good ideas and lots of things happening. I know that hopefully we don't go in a different direction because I really feel like, I think we're in our second year of this. And I really feel like from zero to now that I feel like we've really taken some good steps to hopefully get a building. And the other thing I do want to say is is it Ely, right? And I can't, that they, because of the mining industry and the hours and what they do, they did create, Amanda, an amazing daycare facility that they could work with that was economically sound. So that's something that we want to look further into. Is there someone down here that can do that? Is there an industry? I would like to see, and I'm working on it. I'm only in my second year, but I feel like all of our colleges should have a daycare facility. And so that's something that we're looking at to see what we can do. All our CSNs, every facility have something for those that, you know, can't go to school because they don't have the proper care for their children. So that's pretty much in a nutshell.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank
Hugh
you.
Anderson for the record. I'm glad you stayed. Thank you for staying
Yes.
because I wanted to ask you a question. So we touched on that there might be some childcare apprenticeship. That's not up and running yet, correct?
Correct.
But what Susan just described, so the neighborhood mom who out of necessity is taking care of her own child, then brings in 2 or 3 other neighborhood children. Is there a way to connect that person with a possible apprenticeship program where after doing that for 3 or 4 years, might in fact be ready to enter the classroom when their children back on to school and they don't need to stay home?
Tony Gibbons, State Apprenticeship Director for the record. Yeah, that's something that we can look at working with the state agencies because of course there's licensure issues with all of that. Our community colleges and even providing some early childhood education classes and finding someone that can be the sponsor for that for those individual. The problem with that is that apprenticeship is based on training and an employer. And so when we're looking at, this is why we don't have any barber or esthetician or that type of programs here, because those are technically independent contractor type of opportunities. So with independent contractors, it doesn't really meet the apprenticeship mold and what not even the state, but the DOL has set as the standards for apprenticeship. And so with this, it might have to be like there's a group, an organization that comes together, and that's how they work together to make that type of apprenticeship. So it'd be some investigation and some talking and working with our DOL counterparts and the intermediaries and seeing if that's something that could be possible, but we can look into it.
Thank you.
If I may follow up on one more item that I forgot about, we were thinking about, you hear about job
Who are
fairs. I'm sorry. Susan Brager for the record. I said I needed this way. Okay, I was excited. One of the other things that we spoke about was, you know, you always see about job fairs and the PSAs on where they're having them. We thought if we could get all of our organizations that, how do you fill out the forms, which are sometimes nightmarish, if we could have a job fair type situation, whether it's at Cashman's Field or in the county downstairs, and all our entities would come there, yourself included, and people could come to that if it had enough of an audience to get them to come, on how they could do the home daycare, how they could work at a daycare. And we thought that was another way to do that in both entities of our state.
Leslie Mujica, board member for the record. I don't know, I had an idea by hearing both of you talk, and Wonder School, I was very impressed, by the way, because it seems like they have a program that not only can we emulate, but that we can have them be an employer. I'm thinking if we can get Wonder School to be the employer, if you will, then we can develop this apprenticeship program and have them have a job placement and have us help them, or, you know, have already like an institute, like have a daycare ready that all we need is staff. And that would be the employer portion of this, right? I think there's a possibility here that we can make something happen.
And they are coming back in November.
So it'd be great if you could attend, Tony.
Send me the invite.
Thank you.
November 20th.
I like how you think.
Thank you. Because that's what you did. So that could be the same thing almost, so.
Excellent. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Susan. Much
No,
appreciated.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to agenda item number 10 for discussion and information only. The chair recognizes Vice Chair Evans, who's not here, but Owen Policy Analyst Katie Gilbertson. And we'll discuss the Governor's Workforce Development Board's member survey. For this discussion item, we are particularly interested in what topics the members would like to see on future agendas. We want to make sure we provide the most relevant content and discussions tailored to the key mission of this board. Katie, you want to kick it off?
Yes, sir. Okay, all right, thank you. Katie Gilbertson again for the record. So this is just kind of a follow-up to the June meeting where we had sent out a survey to you all, following up from the April meeting on the board training we received from the National Governors Association as well as the Idaho State Workforce Council. Just kind of like, do you understand what your roles and responsibilities of the board are? Do you like what you're hearing, sort of thing. So this is just kind of a follow-up to that. And we're going to go to the next slide. There we go. So yeah, just again, another overview. At the time of the survey, we had 30 people on the board. That's actually current as of yesterday. So we're a little bit over halfway there. So if you haven't filled out the survey, please do. But yeah, just like I
If you
said.
don't, you'll be assigned to 2 committees.
Yeah, well, I know who's on there, so we'll find you. So if you can go to the next slide. So just really today, last time I just kind of went over, people felt confident in the training and everything like that, which is great. And that those resources are available on our website if you'd like to revisit or anything like that. We send that out to the new members as well. Today, what we want to kind of just discourse in with you guys is what would you like to see for the future meetings? In the survey, that was like kind of select as many as you want sort of questions. That's why this doesn't add to 100 if you're wondering. But so like a lot of people said from the survey, want to see more vision from the governor, emerging workforce trends, impediments to working, as we talked about here with the barriers and childcare subcommittees. Gov's reserve funding was also clicked on a lot. The workforce development ecosystem kind of that was brought up in the strategic plan. How does this all really come together? So, you guys can read that, but just kind of, I think, kicking it back to the chair to say, what do we want to kind of keep running with in this full board for meeting topics?
I have a quick, Susan Breger for the record. Just like we've heard today about a business not knowing about something, we did do a good survey to businesses before. I wonder if it's time again to send something out so they know we're still working on these things, but through our municipalities. Because I think that's when we were boosted up by a lot more ideas and recommendations when the county sent it out to the business license department. So maybe all the entities, municipalities could do something like that to let them know what's happening and what's going on and how we can utilize. I mean, what you're doing is absolutely fantastic, but not knowing what we don't know is difficult.
And I think the survey has to elevate that.
Right.
Because that's a shame.
It is.
What do you? And Susan, I'll just ask a clarifying point, Katie Gilbertson for the record. So that last time was the childcare business survey?
Oh, that's right. But I meant for this one. Maybe we need to do one for this is what I was.
Yeah, like 2 different ones.
Right,
It's more like
exactly.
do you understand the public workforce system?
Exactly.
Or
And even when
something
that
simple.
Susan Breger again, the money that they can get, a lot of
Okay.
people didn't even know that was out there.
Yeah.
F41 or
45 that.
40, yeah.
45
thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't mean for the childcare again. I meant something like we
Yeah,
did for
sure.
that, do for the businesses.
Or are you aware?
Right, exactly.
All right. Any other action items on that score? And
Yes, thank you. Ann Silver for the record. I just have a quick question because it's a very low percentage on data reporting, and I assume outcomes and deliverables are incredibly important. There's a lot of discussion about training and funding and more funding, but everybody should be concerned about the outcomes that are delivered through all this funding. And perhaps the board should ask for more, get more, produce more, deliver more to those of us who are very interested where a lot of money is going and what clients actually get from the job training experience. Are they placed? Are they in career-oriented positions? What are their wages? So the fact that that has such a low score either indicates to me the board doesn't know about it or doesn't receive data or real-time data on outcomes, or it doesn't matter. I'm not sure, but I'd be concerned about that. Thank you.
Jaime, do you have a question? Yes, excellent point, Ann, but I'll let Jaime chime in and then we'll discuss it further. Jaime?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jaime Cruz, Workforce Connections. For the record, I wanted to first comment on, I've heard a couple times about businesses not being aware of how to engage with our system. I wanted to make sure everybody knows that our brand here in Nevada is called EmployNV. And there are American Job Centers that are designed specifically for businesses. Those are called EmployNV Business Hubs. Here in Southern Nevada, there's one inside a Chamber of Commerce. There's one hosted at the Vegas Chamber. And that's where most of the business, if you will, community that our new customers are coming from. But there's also two hosted at municipalities. There was a point made earlier about municipalities. The city of North Las Vegas hosts an EmployNV Business Hub in City Hall. So does the city of Henderson. There's also two more in libraries, one at the Green Valley Library and one at the Sahara West Library. So the EmployNV Business Hubs, there's staff there that are dedicated to dealing with businesses. So that's number one. That's door number one. Door number two is the industry sector partnerships. We have now a robust engagement with 280 businesses from our 7 target sectors of Southern Nevada. And that is another way that employers can engage with our system and find out about all the menu, if you will, of ways that they can benefit. So just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. And if there's more information needed, of course, we can always do a better job at making that knowledge public. But that is the main doors of how a business or an employer can interface with the system. And to Ann's question about data, if you haven't seen it, and I would welcome you or anybody to go to our Workforce Connections website. On the second banner, there is a dashboard. We tried to take the language that we need to speak to when we talk to DOL about credential attainment and measurable skills gain and retention second and fourth quarters after exit and all the stuff that's not really the business world. And we've tried to translate it to simply measuring outcomes, as you say. Why are we making these investments? What are we getting out of it? That page will tell you. It talks about simple return on investment, the value of money over time. And you can go there again and break that information down per years, per cities, per counties, per genders, per ethnicities, anything you want. But that is available to the public. And we've made that as an effort to be transparent about the return on the investment we're making here in Southern Nevada.
Thanks, Jaime. Nope.
No,
Thank
Stuart,
you.
for the record, I would just echo what Jaime just said with regards to business hubs. We have a system, EmployNV Business Hubs in Northern Nevada as well, and are working with Dieter hand in glove. We're opening a new office in Fernley, which has a career hub and a business hub, and will be staffed by multiple partners. We're working with Dieter to establish a youth hub and also move the Sparks Hub, business and career hub to co-locate in the same location. I would also piggyback off of Jaime's mentioning of the industry sector partnerships. Through the Nevada Works Good Jobs Challenge Award, we've stood up now 5 industry sector partnerships and are working on additional, including a lithium life cycle or lithium battery tech hub aligned industry sector partnership. We have now engaged with over 100 employers. We have recognizing that there are different needs, metro and rural. We have 2 sets of industry sector partnerships so that we can be certain that we're hearing and being responsive to the needs of the rural communities. And also, we are in the process right now through Good Jobs of establishing dashboards that show who we have in the pipeline at any given time from a training perspective, what the demand is that we're seeing both through labor market information that we receive from Dieter and also the surveys, employer surveys that we do as a result of the industry sector partnerships, so that we can align at the supply and demand, if you will. So I would just try and bring that to surface for this organization to understand there is a lot of work that's happening out there. Maybe it's an awareness thing. Maybe we can collectively be better at sharing that information. We're in the beta version of these dashboards that we're talking about, but I think it's going to really be helpful to help to some of the questions around outcomes and really some specifics around placements and whatnot. We can certainly provide that information and contextualize it for this organization. So just wanted to piggyback off what Jaime had said.
Milt Hugh Anderson, for the record, two things. Does your 100 employer sector partnerships overlap any with Jaime's?
There are some due to the north-south, yeah.
I think it goes back.
North-south.
Yeah, I know. Steve, we
That
gotta
was
figure out.
Statewide, thank you.
I think that would be a great universe for us to develop a survey for employer
Right.
knowledge and lack thereof. So I think that might be something we want to focus on, the industry sector partnership participants. Going back to your question, Ann, I think I can speak bravely on behalf of this board and our title partners that we have spent an enormous amount of time on our agendas over the last 2 years, talking about the data that we need to understand outcomes. Who are we serving? How much is it costing to serve? What are the positive outcomes or not positive outcomes, as it were? We have also been very educated by our title partners that, unlike business world, where sometimes it's just raw data in and good raw data out, there are some nuances to each title program, and we've been educated on that score. It doesn't mean that we're relaxing our expectation to understand input and output, but we have spent an enormous time on those issues, and I recognize and hear your concern loud and clear. The only explanation I can give you on the survey is I assume, and that's a very dangerous thing to do, is that our board recognizes that data is an expectation. Does that make sense?
Totally. Thank you.
Excellent. Ken?
So Ken Goodrich for the record. And here. I just want to go, I'll start with a little backstory. I started in business in Las Vegas when I was 25 years old, and I knew a trade, and I got started in the trade like most small business people do. Those of you who've had business kind of have probably had the similar experience, but I didn't know anything about business. And so I went out and I started building a business, and I'm in the air conditioning business in one of the hottest places on earth. So it was kind of a no-brainer. And so I grew very quickly. I still didn't know much about business. One day I went to the office and there was a guy standing out in front of my door, kind of a disheveled guy. And as I walked up, he introduced himself, and he was from the IRS. And he said he would like to talk to me about my delinquent payroll taxes. And I was so green at the time, I said, "What's payroll taxes?"
Oh boy, that's trouble.
And he quickly showed me what payroll taxes were. And so I had an early challenge, and I went through the challenge, and I got my education through the School of Hard Knocks. And over time, I learned how to run a business profitably. But in that process, what I figured out is, how to lead, manage, and develop people. And, everyone talks about in my trades business that, the shrinking pool, it's hard to find good people. Every business says it's hard to find good people, but I assure you, 40 years ago, it was hard to find good people then too. And so what I learned is I would go find people with character or desire or a real need, but they really had, they wanted to win, they wanted to build a life, they wanted to build a future, and I would start to develop them. And over time, my business began to flourish because I built people who were writing for the brand. and they were, they knew that this was a place where they could grow. And I became more interested in improving people's lives than I ever did making a buck. And because the whole motive of the business was improving people's lives, I happened to make a lot of bucks because just the nature of that process. So over the years, the mantra for all my businesses, I've had many companies, and all over the Southwest region, is we're here to improve people's lives, both our external customers and our internal customers, which are employees. So it felt like a natural thing when I was appointed to this board. And so I came in and, it's, drinking from a fire hose, trying to figure out all the agencies and what they do and everything. And everyone's measuring success in a different manner. And I'm like, what the heck's going on here? This is a lot coming at me. And we come to these board meetings, and we talk about measurement. We can't seem to get the data and all this stuff. So I kind of had an epiphany the other day, and Ann's question reminded me of it, which is this. First, we got to have a guiding light. So, and what is our guiding light? Our guiding light is our community, the board, and all the other agencies are here to improve people's lives, Nevadans' lives, right? These people who give them a leg up and let them become productive Nevadans. And so that's our mantra, improving people's lives. And I thought, okay, so where do we start in terms of this data? As it's a big lift to try to bring all these agencies together and start to think about it the same way. And so we can get something together to figure out, are we measuring success? Are we successful? Are we measuring success? So I thought, maybe the first thing we start doing is try to celebrate the successes that we do have with one mantra of improving people's lives, and either on a monthly, quarterly, or annual basis, how many people's lives did we improve? Just one, just the one. And then start from there. Okay, how do we make it better? Look at each agency and how they're doing it. How can they make it better? How can we start to think about it in a unified front to improve that number? If we had one guiding light number to start with, being the fact that everybody's disjointed, they're measuring success differently. If we drove, our role is kind of drive everybody to that number, perhaps we could get to a clearer point.
Excellent points. Excellent points. I think you'll find also that, and I assume you do this too at your meetings, Milt, but Jaime Cruz at his Workforce Connections boards meetings periodically will have those success stories come and say, 18 months ago, I was here. I'm now here, and I'm able to pay my rent, feed my family, and all this good stuff with a career path that's secure. So I think that's a point well taken.
And that-
This board should see some of the victories that are being produced, because much of this is esoteric and it's on paper, but it's really great to hear from a live human being.
And I'm sure that for me, it's been that's a very motivating thing to see all the people. And when you take a guy that was barely making it, and then he comes and tells you that he got married, and then he bought his first house. And then they get a little out there and say, now I'm going to go buy a new Porsche. And I say, no, we're not doing that. We have education on finance. We have finance professionals come in and teach people how to save their money and buy insurance and do a mortgage and all that stuff. So, maybe we just start with one guiding light. How many lives have we improved, and, share the success stories to keep us all pointed in the right direction.
Leslie Mojica for the record, and Ken, to your point, that is the driving force behind what we were trying to achieve by getting some type of uniformity in the reporting so that we know. That was the whole purpose. Exactly what you described was our whole purpose in thinking of why we needed that, so that we know. And if it's not working, if let's just say one agency is helping more than the other, we just wanted to identify why, so that we can help them reach more people. That was the whole point of it. Thank you.
Second. We have
Evelyn.
Evelyn.
Yes. Evelyn Thompson Hilbert for the record. Sorry for the previous person, I forgot your name, but I think it's a great idea. To Leslie's point, with the reporting, I just want to remind us, the board, that we have 17 different kinds of agencies with 17 different kinds of reporting. And so I think one of the great things that happened is when we were all able to meet in person at the beginning of the year to clarify communication. So I just wanted to throw that in. It would be impossible to have all the agencies report the same because they have very different ways that they measure. But yes, we look a lot of data here. So if anything, I would say maybe how we can just, to add to the initial report that Katie gave, and I really think maybe that's something with the engagement group, really, is how can we communicate and perhaps contribute to translating so that everybody's on the same page about all the different data that we do have to handle on the board. So that were my thoughts on that. But I love the idea of acknowledgement. I think that's very important because everybody's working a lot, and at the end of the day, we are all trying to help everybody have better lives.
Thank you, Evelyn. I think we also have to remember that in this particular meeting, we did not get any formal title reports. And that's where we do solicit the data and the outcomes and so forth. So I assume going back, as our agenda opens up again, we could be getting those title reports going forward. And this body can ask for the data they need on the terms that it can be provided. Edward, I'm sorry.
I second what Evelyn just said. I think that was one of the most productive meetings we were in. I would even make a recommendation at this point to even talk about, similar to how we had a strategic committee that was discussing the strategic plan and everything and trying to condense it and coming back to this full board and reporting, a smaller subcommittee working with the different titles to, again, simplify, even if it's just the basic of one data point, right? Whatever it is. But in working through that, just trying to understand all their challenges, because I've been working in the space of government, like I deal with different government entities. Their job isn't easy. The type of reports they have to do from the federal government standpoint is ridiculous. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. They spend days and days and weeks on that stuff. You know this, right? And it's not spending the good work, the time that you should be helping people, but it's just reporting back to the federal government. So I want to make sure we're not putting extra burden on them, but rather figuring out how can we help simplify, what can we do to make things easier? And then are there technologies we can share maybe? But those are the places where you can have the conversation, not in this bigger form, but I think in the smaller, because I think that's how work gets done. Like the subcommittees that we're all been serving on, work is getting done and it's getting done efficiently. But it's never done as this bigger group. So that's just my own 2 cents.
Thank you.
Well, to my point was
Identify yourself.
Ken Goodrich for the record. So to my point, where do you start? I mean, I've been to these meetings and it's a constant discussion. Where do you start? How do we get this done? My recommendation, we start with one and we start measuring it. And then all the groups come together. Okay, what's our goal for the next year? How can everybody start bringing it up? Which will start to give us more visibility in how they do things, how they measure success. And maybe that would be a catalyst to bring in some real data together where we can come and start to support and improve, help the agencies improve. We got to have something to start with, because we come to these meetings, we talk about how we can't get the data. Let's just define something to start with, and then we can work from there to build into it.
Well, why don't we do this? At the next meeting, we will be having title reports again. And why don't we all identify those data points? Maybe the one will have a popular vote and say, that's the data point we'd like to hone in on for the foreseeable future. So we'll take that from the title reports.
Susan Brager for the record. I think, and be careful what you ask for, because I have found through my 26 years of elected service that if you ask, it's like they want to bury you in it, and no disrespect. But government need, we just like a one-page something that gives us the information we need, not 50. And poor Katie, I keep telling her, just tell them they have 15 minutes, send it to us ahead of time, and let us know what questions we want to ask. It's just how I like to work. So.
Good points. All right, any other comments? All right, hearing none, we're going to move on to item number 11. For discussion and information only. I'd like to see if there's any new business from the board. I think we just got on new business. We're gonna have some fun at the next meeting. All right. Before moving on, I kindly request that any member of the board who arrived late after roll call was taken to please identify yourself at this time. Be marked present.
Yeah, I got it.
Apparently Katie got everybody anyway. All right, moving on to item number 12, members of the public are invited for final comments. No action may be taken on any matters during public comments until the matter itself has been included on the agenda. As an item for possible action, public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any on up north from Carson City? On Zoom? In Las Vegas? Hearing none? We are adjourned. Thank you all for your time and your participation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really good.